My indoctrination into the Cosa Nostra's inner circle was a baptism by fire, and it took less than 2 years for me to grasp the true meaning of my blood oath. Frank DeChico, a seasoned veteran 12 years my senior, became my guide and mentor. With his roots in construction and labor racketeering, he was earmarked for greatness, and his trajectory was closely monitored by the higher-ups. Initially, he was part of Jimmy Brown's crew, which controlled the lucrative commercial garbage collection racket in Manhattan and Queens. But Paul Castellano, ever the strategist, reassigned him to Tommy Bellotti's crew, where he became an integral part of the inner sanctum. Bellotti, a captain and Castellano's trusted chauffeur, was the gatekeeper to the boss's inner circle, and DeChico's ability to navigate both the Castellano and De La Croce factions earned him widespread respect. I knew DeChico from my Bensonhurst days. Frank was a stand-up guy, always straight with me. We grew closer over time, especially after I got made. He never steered me wrong or fed me a line. But it was DeChico who helped me navigate the treacherous waters of a crisis involving Nick Cibetta, his wife's younger brother. Nick, a likable kid, had fallen prey to the drug epidemic sweeping the nation. His cocaine habit was compounded by heavy drinking, leading to a string of car crashes and DUI arrests. The final straw came when Louis Milito called to report that Nick had gotten into a brawl at a gay nightclub owned by John Rizzo, prompting a police response. I hightailed it down there and sprang him from the slammer before the cops started rounding up suspects. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. There was the time Nick got into a brawl with the son of Tony Jets, a Gambino family affiliate. The kid came out on top, leaving Nick battered and bruised. Nick was furious and ran to the authorities, getting the son pinched for assault. The kid was marked for being a snitch, but I convinced Nick to change his story, and the charges were dropped. Crisis averted. Then there was the incident with Georgie DeChico's daughter. Nick had apparently disrespected her, and her father went ballistic. He marched straight to Tato, demanding Nick get a good old-fashioned beatdown. I stepped in and offered to handle it myself. I had a word with Nick, and let's just say he won't be forgetting a little chat anytime soon. It was better than him ending up in a world of hurt. But Nick's antics didn't stop there. There were other close calls, and I was at my wit's end. Maybe it's time to get him out of Bensonhurst before things escalate further, I thought. But little did he know, Paul Castellano was keeping tabs on the whole ordeal. The drugs, the drinking, the run-ins with Tony Jets' son and Georgie DeChico's daughter. Paul had had enough. This kid's a liability, he declared. It's a reflection on our family's reputation. Paul summoned Frank DeChico and ordered him to assemble Sammy's crew to take care of Nick. But there was a catch. Paul didn't want me to know a thing about it. Frank got in touch with Louis Milito and Stymie, a young gun who would eventually become my right-hand man. They were torn. How can we do this behind Sammy's back? They wondered. They decided to have a heart-to-heart with Frank, who agreed that keeping it from Sammy was a bad idea. Frank went back to Paul and told him as much. Paul's consent was finally granted, his voice dripping with malice. Convey my instructions to Sammy. If he refuses to comply, eliminate him on the spot. It was then that Frank revealed the sinister truth to me, his words hanging in the air like a guillotine's blade, anger boiling over. To hell with Paul. I'll take him down first. Frank's gaze was a cold splash of reality. You're no match for Paul, my friend. You'll be signing your own death warrant, and Louis and Stymie will follow suit. And in the end, your brother-in-law's fate will remain unchanged. I was trapped, unable to confide in Tato, who was deliberately kept in the dark. This was a clandestine operation, and involving him would only ensnare him in the crossfire. I knew exactly what he'd say. The boss's word is law. I lamented to Frank that I wished he'd kept me in the dark. He countered, How could we live with ourselves if we didn't warn you? How could we face you? I was left with a cruel choice. Die alongside Nicky or betray my oath to the Cosa Nostra. I chose to abandon Nicky, but the weight of my decision crushed me. I thought of my innocent wife and in-laws and the devastation that would soon engulf them. I prayed that Nicky's disappearance would be a mercy, sparing his parents the agony of the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm complicit in what went down. My inaction makes me just as culpable. I didn't sign up for a butcher job, but that's what it turned into. When Junior gave me the order to bring back a trophy from that Long Island hit, I drew the line. I wasn't about to stoop to that level, no matter what the boss said. The cops eventually found a piece of the victim, and the family was left to pick up the pieces. All I could do was try to offer some semblance of comfort, but the guilt still eats at me. What's the point of being a made man if you can't live with yourself?